Alright, so when Netflix first started making this little original series, I wasn't the first person to jump on it. But after watching Jessica Jones, House of Cards, and a few other shows that Netflix created, and on top of that, 2 successful seasons of this, bravo Netflix. Bravo. Alright, Daredevil Season 2. So we got the second season of Netflix's original series about the superhero Daredevil. And before I go any further, if you haven't seen Daredevil Season 1, please go watch it. I mean, just take my word for it. Go check it out. Okay, so the baddies in Season 1 are all taken care of. So now in Season 2, there's a whole new list of problems that come to Hell's Kitchen. And of course, Daredevil has to clean it up. I love Charlie Cox's Daredevil. I mean, the guy just fits the role perfectly. I mean, it's just something about him. I don't know. You just see all the turmoil and struggle and trials that he goes through, and he's balancing Matt Murdock, who's the lawyer, and his nightlife as a superhero crime fighter, Daredevil. And Charlie Cox does an amazing job at this, an amazing job. Now with this new season, Charlie Cox has to not only balance the life of being Matt Murdock and the Daredevil, but he's also introduced to a couple of new issues in Hell's Kitchen that isn't particularly your standard bad guy. The first major plot point in this season, which is probably my favorite plot point along with my favorite character, is the introduction of Punisher. And it's played by Josh Bernthal. Now let me start off by saying that Josh Bernthal isn't a stranger to playing these guys who are messed up in the head on screen, and he kills it as the Punisher. I mean, I've always been a Punisher fan because he just doesn't care. He's so ruthless. He's so hardcore. And that's one of the things that I really loved about seeing Daredevil and Punisher on screen at the same time was the clash of their ideology. On one hand, you got Daredevil who's like, hey, we got to give everyone a second chance. Let's stop crime, no killing. And then on the flip side, you got the Punisher who's like, yeah, right. When I put them down, they stay down. And I just loved it. And not only that, how jacked up the Punisher's character was just so intriguing. And Josh Bernthal nails it. I mean, he does so good as the Punisher that I really can't think of anybody else who would have did it any better or any more justice. And I really hope the guy gets his own show after this. I'm just saying, who knows? Now, of course, with the introduction of the Punisher's character, we also see a upgrade in the amount of violence and action that's in this season. I mean, Season 1 was amazing in that aspect. I'm not taking anything from it, but they definitely stepped it up in Season 2. I mean, come on. You had to know there were going to be blood and gore if you got Frank Castle in your kitchen. Hell's Kitchen, that is. But not only did they step up the gore, the fight scenes are a lot better. The cinematography, I mean, the action sequence, it's all just that much better. And it just lives up to the hype of Season 1. And I couldn't get enough of it. The second major development in this season is the introduction of Elektra. Basically, she comes back into Matt Murdock's life, and she brings a huge problem with her. If you haven't seen the season, I'll try my best not to say much, but I'm pretty sure by now most people have seen it. But anyway, once Elektra comes back, you have another anti-hero, and then you have like this romance between her and the Daredevil. And basically, Matt Murdock has his hands full. I mean, he has to deal with the Punisher and his issues. He has to deal with Elektra and her issues. He has to deal with his friends and his work life and who knows about him and who doesn't. And the guy just has his hands full. Now that I've said all that, the season isn't perfect. There was one gripe that I had. I feel like the flow of the season wasn't nearly as flawless as the flow in Season 1. I mean, you had so much going on in this season. In the introduction of the Punisher and Elektra, they were amazing, and they both had their strong points. They both had their highs, and they both played a very vital role in making the season work. But my problem is that the director didn't write it into the script so that their stories tied in cohesively. I mean, it was like when Punisher was on screen, it was all about Punisher, and it was Punisher versus Daredevil. And then at a certain point in the season, he kind of takes a step back, and then Elektra comes to the front. And then for a few episodes, it's all about Elektra. And then it just keeps going back and forth like that until the very end, and then in the last part of the season, they kind of bring them in, but it doesn't flow smoothly. Now, please hear me when I say this, that is just a small gripe. I don't feel like it takes away from the season enough to make it a bad season. It's definitely still very enjoyable. I mean, Josh Bernthal was perfect as Punisher. Couldn't think of anybody better. Elektra did pretty good. Charlie Cox nails Matt Murdock. I mean, they stepped up the fighting. They stepped up the action. They stepped up the everything really. I mean, even Daredevil's suit got an upgrade, and I love that because the suit that they premiered at the end of season one was a little too cartoony, and I like how they changed it to make it look a little more gritty to fit the theme of the story. And I'm just ready for season three, and I'm hoping in season three that they bring back Fisk and they still have the Punisher, and then they have their deal with Elektra, and I'm just ready for it. I mean, again, if you haven't seen Daredevil, definitely go watch it. I mean, season one and season two are now complete, and you can find them on Netflix. And if you're like me, you're probably gonna binge watch them. They're amazing. And with all that being said, I definitely so far have to rate Daredevil legendary. All right, that does it for this TV review. Now, as always, whether you liked it or whether you hated it, comment below and let me know. But if you liked it and you thought this video rocked, like, comment, and subscribe to see more from me, Mike Proc. Later.